Oh, yeah. Dope Dealers Podcast, episode 42. I'm here. Your man, Tobe Hixx. Chilling tonight. My co-host, Jamal, is working tonight, performing, making people laugh. So since this was part 2 of If I Sold You Drugs, I Paid For It, I decided I could do this one solo with just me and Paul, the engineer, and Yusuf. We in the studio chilling.
Yeah, what's up?
Episode 42, Dope Dealers Podcast. Man, I had to mentally prepare myself for these episodes where I'm telling the shit that actually happened to me. It's not as easy as it seems. People just think you could just sit down and start talking about this shit. Now, some of this shit has been so painful that I gotta get myself mentally prepared. So I've done that this week, and I'm ready to go again with part 2 of If I Sold You Drugs, I Paid For It.
Now, before you get into it, I got a question. Now, you were telling me about some of the comments that people have been sending you about this. What's been the reaction?
Yeah. Part 1, I mean, people couldn't wait. I mean, it was like, I remember Thursday, someone put a comment like, man, I'm ready for part 2 already. Like, they listened to it that morning and was like, they're really tripping off the story. And a lot of people are, making comments like they just can't believe that, I've been through so much stuff. Like, at that point, and this, it might take 3 parts. Shit. This shit is crazy. But, like I said, shout out to my homie Jamal, co-host, out working tonight. I guess I'll just shit. Oh, shout out to the troops, yeah. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the Coast Guard, the National Guard, and the Bloods. Part 2. I ended part 1 with, I was still in San Diego, and I had just got out of prison for selling cocaine, and that's when I ended it with telling of the 100 armed robberies I committed in my life without getting caught. So after the armed robbery stints, then, I knew that shit was up, before you get caught, it's like, okay, I got to stop this shit. So that's when I had to find a new crime to commit because, couldn't really get caught up selling crack no more because then now the laws had got stiffer. It would have just been devastating. So that's when my homies came to me and they had a new crime. Yeah, white collar crime, identity theft and shit like that. Me and my homeboys, we was the first people doing identity theft. Like, we was tapping into people's bank accounts and shit like that. I had a homeboy who, he graduated at the top of his class from UCLA, and he never had a job. He just hacked into motherfuckers' accounts. I mean, we set up a whole operation where we had checks. You remember the days when the check cashing, you could just walk in and walk out? We was the reason why they started locking the doors at the check cashing when you had them fucked up checks. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we was tapping, at this time now, we're tapping into motherfuckers' bank accounts. They don't even know what hit them at this time. They didn't even know about identity theft. And man, we had the operation set up so smooth. We type up the checks, print them up. We had the office set up to where they call and verify this shit. The shit was smooth, man. We was killing motherfuckers. And man, I was like, coming from selling crack and robbing motherfuckers, I was like, oh man, this is free fucking money right here. So my job, I was in charge of the street operation. My homeboy did the computer work. My other homeboy got the bank information. And I was in charge of the street operation, getting the people to bust the checks, taking care of them, running them. I would load a carload of people up and drive them around the check cashing joints, and they go in there and bust these joints. And man, I mean, it was beautiful because, I mean, you weren't riding around with no crack. wasn't riding around with no guns. You didn't need none of that shit. All you needed was that paper. Mm-hmm. And then I got a job at Kinko's, right? This was like when Kinko's kind of started, like, you know, or not too long after. I mean, they were just getting big. I got a job at Kinko's, and that's when the game just expanded. And we started doing like counterfeit traveler's checks and, you know, counterfeit money with the color copier and all that type of shit. And I worked the graveyard shift. Oh, man. I was tearing their ass up. We was in there printing all kind of fake shit at night. Just all night long, just tearing their ass up, getting that shit ready, and just start dispersing it across the country. It was like the dope game. But it was beautiful because it's like you didn't have to worry about those types of penalties. And at this time, now I've started my comedy career, so I'm performing as I'm committing these crimes. And I'm just starting to do road gigs. So as I'm going out on the road to perform, not only am I going to the club and perform and make my money, I'm passing fraudulent shit in their town. The traveler's checks were beautiful. I mean, because I remember we made them up in like $100 denominations, and I would go buy shit for like $10 and bust them open. Like I would do shit like, you know, I was always, one thing about my criminal life, I was always a Robin Hood type. You know, I always believed in helping out the people that was less fortunate or whatever. And so I would go to places like, and I go in the grocery store and get a bag of diapers for like $10. Boom, they give me my change back 90, and I'd have a trunk full of diapers, and I'd go to the hood and give them to mothers who needed diapers and shit like that. But I was tearing their ass up. And so it got to a point where I was tearing their ass up with the comedy, and I'm busting checks, and oh man, it was out of control. Now I'm passing checks, whatever. At this time I had been on like BET's Comic Views, so people they kind of knew who I mean, they could recognize me or whatever. And I'm out doing this shit. And I remember I got so smooth with this shit. I had like a wallet that I would carry with me, and as I would go in and bust fraudulent checks in all these stores and shit, like I had fake credit cards and shit in the wallet, like I'd have an American Express card and this and that. And so motherfuckers see me open up my shit, they just thinking everything about me legit. Yeah. I remember when I finally got caught up, and I looked at the report, they was like, he was so smooth, like we had no idea he was up to this type of shit. I remember one time, and also I would go to McDonald's and bust the checks too, like, I mean, all types of plot. But I remember McDonald's because one time I went into McDonald's to bust a fake traveler's check, and I just happened to, some said, look up. And I looked up, and they had my fake traveler's checks, like a Xerox copy on the wall, like saying, do not accept it, because we have been busting them bitches all across the country. So now they put the memo out and sent that shit to all the McDonald's, and I happened to see that shit before I got ready to pull one out, and, I was like, whew, I'm glad I seen that shit, but it was just funny. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, so we can't fuck with McDonald's no more. And that's how we would burn out spots like that until they just passed that shit corporate-wide, like just across the country. Like, do not accept this shit. But by then, we didn't tow their ass up. And so then obviously it gets to a point where I remember I was rolling with my boy and I was doing shows and we was in Oklahoma City. And I had just told my boy, I said, man, you know what? I said, man, we can't do no fraudulent shit nowhere no more where we don't know somebody in the town. Mm-hmm. I just told him that. And, I said, after this. So I go to a spot and I try to pass one. And next thing I know, the police come, they swoop on us, whatever. And now I'm arrested in Oklahoma City. I was only in Oklahoma City for 15 minutes. And I was arrested. And then now I'm in Oklahoma City County Jail and all this and shit. And I don't know nobody, whatever. And I ended up being there for like 4 months. And then, I became cool. Like, one thing about being in Oklahoma City County Jail, there was some brothers in there that was cool and looked out for me, whatever. So I never had any problems or nothing. And the police were halfway cool. Some cops were cool with me. They would bring me like outside food and shit, Burger King. I remember the police came to my cell and one day and they was like, Toby, they was like, man, what the fuck did you do? And I was like, what are you talking about? They was like, man, the feds here to see you. I said, oh shit. I said, y'all bullshit. Cause it was 2 black police and they was cool. They was from the hood. That was just their job. But they was good brothers, as good as they could be in that position. So they was like, yeah, the feds here to see you. You gotta go, get dressed and shit. So I go down there. I never will forget when I walked in there, the feds, them motherfuckers, they badge was so big, they had that motherfucker in a briefcase. He opened that bitch up. Motherfucker had a big ass badge. I was like, damn. And they had everything on me. And I was like, oh shit, so it's a wrap. But the beauty of that, see, that's why we decided, after everything criminal I had done in my life, that's why I decided to go that route, because it didn't carry that much time. I ended up getting sentenced to like 18 months in federal prison. And if I wouldn't have had a previous record, I wouldn't have got no time. I'd have got probation. So then now I go to federal prison. I go to Leavenworth. And then at the end of my 18 months, they sent me out to a lower level, which was in Springfield, which was a hospital like where they would start to release you from. And that's where John Gotti was at. And John Gotti died up in there and shit. So that was crazy. So after getting out of prison this time, I had to go back home to Omaha. So now I've done comedy for a few years, been on TV, all of this, been in prison multiple times. People like, damn, he done threw his career away, all this shit. I remember I went home and now I'm at home because I had to start over again. So I'm there and I get 2 jobs. I get a job at the cleaners and a job at the neighborhood liquor store. And besides working at Kinko's so I could commit that fraudulent shit, I never really had too many jobs. So during the daytime, I'm working in the cleaners. And during the summer, it's like 150 degrees in there. And then at nighttime, I'm literally working at a liquor store till 2 a.m. in the hood, Daddy's liquor store, in the hood where a motherfucker might get killed in front of the store. Like, that's what my day consists of. I'm doing both of these jobs fresh out of prison just to get on my feet or whatever. And at this time, I meet a young lady and, my homeboy hooks me up. He said, I'm dating this woman and she got a daughter. And I was like, huh? She got a daughter? And he was like, yeah, the woman and the mother was older, he was dating, and I was like, okay. So he said, man, you probably dig her. She might like you. Y'all might be cool. So now I'm fresh out, and I meet this young lady, and she was cool. Especially now looking back on it, she was cooler at the time because I was fresh out and shit, vulnerable, no excuse, but she was cool, whatever. Seemed like a decent person. Everything was cool. Started to look out for me. She had a good job. She had good credit. She was doing well for herself. Had her own place, couple kids, whatever. Had her own place. Everything was cool. We started hooking up. And somehow the conversation, she starts, it comes up, because I'm telling her, I'm just working these 2 jobs because I got to get back to California and get back to my comedy career and this and that. And I was like, this time, I started my career in San Diego, so I'm like, now, since I didn't got out of prison, I'm going straight to LA. Ain't no reason for me to go back to San Diego. I'm just going straight to LA. So she was like, that she'd be down to go to LA and blah, blah, blah. And we became close. I mean, close as you could be, well, in a short period of time, because like I said, I guess I was vulnerable. I got out. And so, I had been in relationships with other women for years and, never got married or nothing. So after I get out, I meet this chick and then and we end up getting married and shit. And I should have known shit was gonna be fucked up from the day of the wedding, right? So we get married, and a lot of my friends was like, "Damn, you getting married quick. Y'all ain't even know each other that long." But I was like, "Fuck it, she cool. She got good credit. She got a good job. She was working for the bank, so she could relocate to California, have a job." I was like, "Fuck it, I got to get out of here. I'm working this motherfucker cleaners. I get shot at the liquor store at night. I got to get back to this shit." So we got married, and I should have known shit was gonna be fucked up from day one, the day of the wedding, right? So we get married, and afterwards, we have a reception. We get married at a church, and we have a reception at the hotel where we were staying, which was in West Omaha, which is basically the white neighborhood. So, so now we have the reception, and we there, and everybody's having a good time, drinking and all that type of shit. So we go upstairs, me and like my best man, my homeboys I grew up with, shit like that. So we're upstairs in the room, and we smoking weed and shit, everybody kicking it. And so all of a sudden, two of my homeboys I grew up with, they start arguing. They had been drinking and shit, whatever. So they start arguing, and they get into a fight in the hotel room. Now they get into a fight, right? And so at first, me and the homies, everybody, we just let them go because they was wrestling a little bit. So just gonna let them go for a moment, whatever. In the hotel, it was like on the bed or whatever. So they couldn't really break nothing or whatever. And so they fighting. So then all of a sudden, my homeboy Dre just bites my homeboy Tony. I mean, just bites him he's biting him on his back. So then now, my big homeboys, now they like, okay, shit, now they grab, trying to pull him off of him and break it up, and he's biting him like, the shit just looked excruciating. So he finally let him go, and we like, "Dre, man, what the fuck, man? What are you doing, bro?" And I'm talking to them both. I said, "Man, I can't believe, I'm like, I can't believe y'all doing this, man, on my wedding day. This how y'all gonna do me? Like, are you fucking kidding me? This how y'all gonna act? Blah, blah, blah." And what they was arguing over was equivalent to like $50, like literally. And it was years ago. Just some stupid shit. So I was like, look, so one was my best man, so he was in a limo, so he didn't have his car. So I told my other homeboy, Tony, who had the car, who had got bit, I was like, look, man, just go ahead and get in your shit, man. Just go on home, man. Just go on home, bro. This is crazy. I can't believe y'all acting like this. I couldn't believe y'all did this shit. So he go downstairs. So then a few minutes later, maybe 5-10 minutes later, my boy Dre, he goes downstairs, and I'm still upstairs with a few of my other boys or whatever. So then all of a sudden, somebody comes back up to the room, and they knock on the door, and they's like, "Toby, they down here fighting." I said, man, oh, man, are you fucking kidding me? So now we run downstairs, and they downstairs wrestling a little bit in the front of the hotel. So then we separate them, and we like, man, Tony, just go, man. Go get in your car, whatever. So he goes and get in his car. Now, people starting to notice, at people from the wedding, the reception, everything, they starting to notice something ain't right or whatever. So some of them to come out the hotel and all this shit. So Tony goes and gets in his car. And it's like, we out there talking or whatever. And Andre's yelling at him. I mean, it's just crazy. So then all of a sudden, Tony gets in his car, and he drives around, and he comes around, and Dre is standing like in the middle of the hotel driveway. Yeah. And man, he just run Dre over with the car. Just ran him over with the car. We all like, what the fuck? Ran him over with the car. Fucked him up, man. Like, to this day, I don't know how he didn't kill him and how he didn't paralyze him. Whatever. Hit him with the car. So now I run over there. Dre been hit with the car. He get up. And then, and I'm like, we couldn't believe our eyes. Like, this shit didn't happen. So now I get Dre up, whatever. And I'm thinking Tony, he's going down the park. We thinking he's leaving. He didn't ran him over with the car. I'm trying to get Dre up, see, check on him, see if he all right. Next thing I know, Here come Tony again in the car. So now everybody's screaming. My wife is screaming, you know, get out the way, blah, blah, blah. So now somehow Dre just he's walking like Freddy Krueger. He's just walking. And all of a sudden, here come Tony again, run him over again with the car twice. Ran him over twice with the fucking car. And we just could not believe it. And so Dre get up, still walking around like it ain't shit. I mean, just, you know, he was that fucked up. And so then now Tony, he pulls out a little bit, he stops the car and he gets out. And now he starts screaming and crying. Man, I didn't want to do that. You made me do this. I didn't want to do this. You made me do it. So, I mean, everybody just like couldn't even believe their eyes. So then by this time, I missed this little part, but by this time, I had got a better job. I had infiltrated my way back into Kinko's. And what I mean by that, because they were nationwide, I went in and applied at one in Omaha, and I took a chance, you know, and they didn't, my criminal shit didn't come through out there. I don't even think they checked. Because I walked in there and they knew I showed them how to run some shit. They knew I knew what I was talking about and did. They just hired me. So now I'm back in Kinko's. And so then now in Omaha, so then now some people from they was working with me. They came to the wedding. I never will forget. I went on the honeymoon, came back, went to work. And I remember going to work, and this white guy that worked with me said, man, you sure know how to throw a party. They was like, just couldn't believe they seen what they seen, a man get run over with a car twice. Yeah. So that's how I should have known that the marriage was going to be fucked up. Yeah, I should have known the marriage was going to be fucked up. So then now, me and my wife and her son, one of her sons, we moved to Los Angeles. We drive from Omaha to California. All we got, she got rid of everything in the house, whatever. All we left Omaha with was basically the shit that we had in the car. We packed up, we started all over. And we got to LA and we stayed with a friend of mine for a moment. We stayed with him for like a month and a half. And then we got our own place. In less than a year, we come from Omaha with nothing. And Wally, I get back into the criminal world again because I you know, my folks who got the checks and this and that, they didn't upgrade it. They should a little bit, you know, modernize their shit the same way the police had picked up on some shit. They had done some new things to tighten up the game. And I was fresh out and I was like, fuck it, you know. So I found a way like to incorporate my wife and let her do the shit. And she's working at the bank. So now we tearing their ass up. We got motherfuckers coming through the bank line to her, you know, at her job, and she busting these shits, whatever. And so I'm right back in it. And so we end up getting, you know, coming with nothing, end up getting our own place, getting all new furniture, everything. We end up getting another new car. So we had a couple cars. I mean, shit was just going cool, like. And I was working, and I was back to doing my comedy, all this shit, and still hustling. And so, I guess, you know, I was kind of like the only motherfucker. I mean, I guess I just didn't see the shit, but all of a sudden my wife started acting kind of weird, you know, like, and I really couldn't put my finger on it, you know, like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I just knew she was acting kind of weird. And I was looking at the type of friends and shit that she had met since she moved to LA and the type of company she was keeping. And I was like, and I would ask her like, yo, what you fucking with these bitches for? I said, I mean, it doesn't make sense for you to be running with these bitches. It don't make sense. I mean, like, y'all not even in the same, you know, category. Like, y'all not in the same financial bracket or whatever. And I don't mean like you can't have friends like that, but like not new friends like that. And just, it's like, what the fuck? Especially out here. And these bitches just, you know, she paying for everything and doing type of shit. But then what I wasn't realizing is that it wasn't just the fact she was just running with the bitches just because, you know, she was just hanging with the ladies and it was a ladies thing. She was running with the bitches because she was a lesbian. And I had yeah, man. I had, and so, you know what? Now looking back on it, I think I've missed some signs, like when I met her, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, now looking back on it, I think her and this girl back home might have been seeing each other because when we told her that we was getting married, this is one of her homegirls, they kind of fell out. And now looking back on it, the reason they fell out, she got mad at her because she was telling her, you know, her girl, like, hey, I'm gonna go marry this man now. But I will, you know what? And I was like, damn, and that was a fucked up feeling at the time because, I didn't know what was worse. Like, but then after years to think about it, whatever, I realized, it's better she left me for a woman because I couldn't even, that means it had nothing to do with me. And I never seen the woman that she was dating, but my homeboys did because I moved out the place and she kept it and she moved a woman right into the same place we had been living. And my homeboys stayed right above us. And my homeboys used to call her Shaq. They called her girlfriend Shaq. They said she was about 6'8". They was like, man, yeah, that bitch would knock you out, Toby. I remember they always would joke, that bitch would knock you out. That's a big ass bitch, man. So she left me to be with a woman who looked like a man. So that was a hell of an ordeal to go through. I mean, like, I'm still on probation. I'm just out of prison and shit, and go through all this shit and come out here and rebuild the life quickly and then to go through that shit. I was like, damn. But I never forget one of my homeboys told me something at the time. He was around when the shit was all fucked up, and he said something that made a lot of sense. He said, well, Toby, you know what? If nothing else, she helped you get here. Shit, it's up to you to make it. Yeah. That's what he told me, and that shit always stuck with me because I was like, yeah, that's some real shit. So now I'm in LA. I'm single again. Getting a divorce, whatever. So luckily that shit went smooth. We didn't have nothing to really. I just let her keep everything, and I just went and started all over again. And at this time, the comedy starting to pick up. But at this time, I'm also starting to do the military gigs across the country. I mean, starting to get ready for those. I remember it was a big change, like being on parole, like out here, federal parole out here in California, as opposed to Nebraska, where I first went back home and got out. Because there, like, I might have had to take like one piss test a month. Some shit like that. And I got here and they had a whole new system. And I ended up finding out that I came from like one of the most lax places for federal parole as to one of the places where it's the toughest. And so then now I had to take a piss test. I had to call a number every day, 7 days a week. Even on holidays, you had to call this number and then you would listen to see if they call your number. They call your number, then I'd have to get up. I would have to be there from like 5 in the morning to 7 in the morning. You had a short, like a 3-hour window. And man, I got out here and some weeks they was piss testing me like 5 days a week. It just became horrible. I couldn't believe that shit. So I made it through all that. That's why I tell people all the time, I've taken thousands of piss tests in my life. Just like, it's just fucking... Yeah, at least 1,000 piss tests in my life I've taken. I was on parole or probation from like 19 to 35. I mean, that was a hell of a stretch, 3 felonies. I mean, like the only thing that saved me is that I had 2 state felonies and then 1 federal, and so that kept me away from the 3 strikes law. Like I tell motherfuckers all the time, I used to have a bit, I tell motherfuckers, I had 3 strikes before they came out with that shit. So now I'm in LA, I'm single, I gotta start all over again. I was able to, I'm working at Kinko's out in LA because once I got back into the system and I was able to transfer out here. So now I'm working at Kinko's out here in Hollywood. And so I'm in a perfect position entertainment-wise because I'm new to town and I'm getting to meet a lot of people right in Hollywood. A few of my homeboys worked there, so it was cool. I remember I went in there like, because I was at one Kinko's in Hollywood, but they were opening. I was transferring. I wanted to transfer to another one that was closer to where I live. So I walked into the Kinko's, and I remember I seen this girl, and I was like, oh shit, who is that now? At the time, I'm still going through all the shit I'm going through, and basically, I start working there, and I run and I meet my daughter's mother at the job. The first day I walked in there. I looked at her, whatever, and dug her, and we was cool and became real cool. And I started to do the military gigs overseas. So now I done got out of prison, and it took me like 6 months, like 3 days a week. I would have to get up. I'd have to get up at like 5 a.m. and call Washington and talk to all these people. I went through all this shit to finally get a passport. They finally gave it to me when I got off, and I finally finished my parole and all them piss tests. And man, it was. I was fortunate I made it, and I was like, man, never again. That was it, and I've been blessed to never had to do nothing, go through those types of things again. But so now I start to travel the world or whatever, and I'm like, man, this is crazy how far I've come out of all these, these prison situations, life-threatening situations, dealing drugs, all this madness, and now I'm going around the world performing for the troops, and I was fortunate enough to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember I got to stay in one of Saddam Hussein's palaces, and that shit was cool. I was like, damn. And you know what I was bugging off of? They was like, he had like I think it's in like 140 palaces or some way out figure like that. And I was just at the one, and that shit was so immaculate, marble floors. And I was like, those motherfuckers had so much money, like we can't even imagine the money that they had. I remember I was in Bahrain one time, and in the hotel, they put us up in like a 5-star hotel, and in the bottom of the hotel there was a bar, and I was down there drinking, and all of a sudden, I became cool. It was a sheik sitting there. I became cool with a sheik, and so I'm rolling around in Bahrain in a Lamborghini with a sheik. He's showing me around and all this. It was just, I was like, man, this is somebody, out of prison, all this from Omaha, Nebraska to all of this shit. Paul, you missed the story about my wedding and all of that. You missed that.
I'm gonna have to tune into the Dope Dealers podcast.
Yeah, that's episode 42. Yeah, that shit was crazy. So like I said, I had a high moment right there.
You was riding around.
In Bahrain, and then I went to Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, that was like the poorest shit I ever seen in my life. I was like, damn. That's why a lot of times when things are bad or things are tough, I just think about those people in Afghanistan. That shit was crazy. That was the poorest I seen. I remember we was on a helicopter in Afghanistan, and all of a sudden the helicopter we was on, they was carrying some like weapons. They had me and the other comedians on there, and the people that were guarding us, and some weapons. So all of a sudden they got a call and something happened. They needed to get those weapons to wherever they need to get them to. It was a serious situation. So they lowered the helicopter in the field in Afghanistan and told us we had to get off. And now we in the middle of Afghanistan with our luggage and shit. I was just like, fuck. Couldn't believe it. I was like, this shit is crazy. So I started walking for a little bit because they was like, come on, we're going to walk the spot we was trying to get to, where we was going was like maybe a mile and a half. So we started walking a little bit, and I might take 40 steps, and I was just lost it at this point. Now I'm tired. I didn't travel. I've been flying for like 30 hours and all this shit. So I just lost it. I was like, fuck that. I'm not going no motherfucking further. I said, like, look, here's what y'all do. Y'all, it was like maybe 6 of them. I was like, okay, 3, they couldn't leave us alone. I was like, 2 of y'all walk and get the truck, and y'all got to come back get us. I was like, motherfucker, we ain't in no shape for this type of shit. Hey, I got rolling luggage, and I'm rolling it through gravel and shit in Afghanistan. I was like, man, come on, man. This shit is fucking crazy. But it ended up being cool, and those trips were always special. Cause you know what I mean, they be so happy. You'll never. I mean, the troops that are in the war zone, they so happy to see you, happy you came. Cause there's a lot of comedians who are scared to go. I mean, there's people who like, couldn't really scared to go. I remember my family was like, "Ooh, ain't you scared? Were you going to Iraq, Afghanistan?" I was like, "Yeah, shit. Look at where we fucking grew up. I made it through all that shit. Look at all the shit I did." See, they didn't know about the 100 armed robberies though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they knew about enough shit. So, but I was like, shit, all the shit I've been through, if I can go through all that shit, I can go over here for 2 weeks. But I was always glad to do those things. And like, shout out to all the people that have been to Iraq, Afghanistan, or any other war zone. Because one thing I learned in my time going to those war zones is that there is no way that you could serve in one of those areas and deal with the situations that you have to deal with no matter which war it was and come back to America and it not affect you. I seen shit that affected me and I was just there for 2 weeks and I wasn't even involved in the fighting. Mm-hmm. So I know that everybody is affected by it and these people do not get enough help. They don't get enough support and they go over there and they risk their life and then they just, they just be back here stuck, with just no way out. A lot of these people are the people that are homeless. And I'm like, that's one thing I just can't understand how, they could, how this shit could end up happening to them. But, and I tell this story in Afghanistan. One night I was over there and I got up late night and had to go to the restroom. And so I go to the restroom and I go in there and it's a soldier in there and he's just tearing up the restroom. And I'm like, damn, what's going on? In my mind, like, damn, what's wrong with him, whatever. But I was like, well, shit, I'm just going to let him do his thing because obviously it's something seriously wrong. So he tore up the whole place, whatever. So the next morning when I get up, I end up finding out that his best friend that got killed over there. So that's why he was in there acting like that. So I'm saying all that to say, and we had a recent, some troops recently died in Afghanistan. Let's look out for these people. You got somebody in your family and they need help. Try to help them get help, mental help and all that. Yeah, help them out. Shit. So, man, this is part 2. If I sold you drugs, I paid for it. And I think this is a good spot to end up part 2, and we will finish up with part 3 at a later date. We're gonna keep that part. We're gonna keep that a surprise. Part 3 at a later date. We'll keep it a surprise and just shock you guys with that because that'll be the end. Get you up to damn near up to right now.
That's what everybody needs to ask for Christmas.
Yeah, part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah.
Send Toby that love at Toby Hixx. Hit him up. Tell him what you want.
Yeah. Shit. And remember this, if anybody gets ran over at your wedding reception, maybe you should get an annulment. Hey, we appreciate you here at Dope Dealers Podcast. We're glad you listened. Hey, like I said, miss my co-host Jamal Doman tonight. He had to work. Check me out this Friday, December 7th. This Friday, I'll be at the library in Bakersfield at 8 p.m., hosted by my homeboy Feather. December 13th, I'll be at the Sundowner Saloon in Kingman, Arizona. December 14th through the 16th, I'll be at the Edgewater Casino in Laughlin, Nevada. And December 17th at the Hundal Casino in Pine Top, Arizona. If you know anybody in those areas, tell them to check me out. Come out, have a laugh with me, especially if you know any black people, because I know I probably won't be seeing too many of them in those areas, but that's fine. I'm used to it. I love it either way it goes. Man, we appreciate you here at Dope Dealers Podcast, Comedy Pop-Up. Thank you to all the loyal listeners, the people that be checking in on Thursday, the moment each episode drops every Thursday. Subscribe if you already haven't. Rate, review, leave a review, tell a friend. If you know any businesses that, would like to sponsor the Dope Dealer Podcast, let us know. You can give us a call at 818-916-1818. 818-916-1818. And me and Jamal are available for any comedy bookings, corporate comedy, adult comedy, your kid's birthday party, a barbecue, a wedding, whatever you need, we are here for you. Bookings for 2019, dates are filling up. So hit us up, Jamal Doman, JamalDoman, Instagram, Tobe Hixx, TOBEHIXX, Dope Dealers Podcast, episode 42. If I sold you drugs, I pay for it. Part 2, part 3 will be in the future. Once again, thanks everybody. Peace. Big time.